Hello and welcome back to my channel. Happy 2020. Yeah, happy 2020. Today I thought I'd do a little bit of a bookish catch up. In the midst of kind of like end of the year videos, finishing 2019, I actually never wrapped December up, so today is going to have two parts. Number one, it is going to be a little December wrap up of what I read in December, and two, I thought I'd show you some of the new books that I got over the festive season. So you're going to get a book haul and a wrap up in one. So let's start with the wrap up. So in December I read Lock and Key Volume 1 by Joe Hill. This was quite good. It was a really short, quick graphic novel read. To me, it was kind of not very memorable. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. However, I am really not inclined to carry on with the series. I feel like I read it so fast, I can't even tell you what it's about. So I think I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. Next book that I read in December was Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. This I read as part of the Bone-a-thon read-along that is run by Ashley through Frolic Through Fiction. I really enjoyed this. It was super good to get back into this kind of universe, to meet these characters that I am now really obsessed and attached to. Something that really stood out to me about this book was the fact that we didn't just get to see Cy in London, we got to travel to Manchester and Edinburgh, and we got to see kind of how Britain as a whole in this universe was mapping out. And I'm super excited that in the next book we're probably going to hear about Paris. And I feel like Samantha Shannon, even though this book is quite short, actually packed a huge punch with her kind of world building and the way she expanded the universe that she'd created in the first 2 books. The only thing that I didn't enjoy about this book was in part some of the pacing, and I feel like the character development kind of lacked a little bit. However, so much was put into expanding the universe that, you know, who needs it? It's such a short book as well, but I can't wait for the next book in the series. The next book I finished, I'd been reading for a while, and it is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. This follows Cameron, whose parents die in a car crash, and her religious aunt comes to look after her. And Cameron is kind of figuring out her sexuality. She's trying to work out who she is, and she's experimenting. But in the meantime, her aunt finds out, and she ends up being sent to a religious camp that aims to correct her sexuality. This book in many places was quite hard to read. It took me a long time to read because I felt like the first 200 pages of this novel were particularly slow. I don't feel like anything happened. However, the latter half of the book I absolutely loved. I felt like you were suddenly introduced to an amazing cast of characters that I so wish we'd have been introduced to sooner. This book obviously is super sad because it talks about the way Cameron's sexuality just isn't accepted by her aunt's religion, and it shows that how she was really restricted and kind of forced to conform to their standards, which is absolutely horrific and absolutely awful. But I kind of just felt like this book was too long. This is a really chunky contemporary. It is 468 pages, which is really long for a contemporary, and I feel like it could have been a good 100 pages shorter. I felt like the pacing was slightly off, and then when I actually got to the bit of the story that was the good bit, I really thoroughly enjoyed it and thought that it was really great, but the pacing definitely let it down. The final book that I read in December is Elizabeth is Missing by Emma Healy. I read this as part of the end of the year-a-thon. It was the only book I finished in the end of the year-a-thon, but hey ho, you know, at least we finished something. And this follows Elizabeth and her family, and Elizabeth has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia. Well, I don't know if she's been diagnosed with it, but she's definitely having symptoms of those sorts. And it just follows the way that Elizabeth can't remember things, the way her family are trying to step in, she's struggling to look after herself, etc. This book I felt was from a really fascinating perspective. I thought that it was really interesting, the way we kind of got to read Maud's perspective. However, I felt like the mystery element that is definitely present in this novel and the experience of Maud really didn't match up, and actually there were two very disjointed stories, and it was really confusing. So I struggled with this and it took me quite a long time to read. However, I thought that it was super unique, but it wasn't good and wasn't bad. So I kind of sat it in the middle and rated it 3 stars. It's a bit of a meh end to the year, to be honest. So the next portion of the video are books that I bought at the end of the year. So first one I actually included in a bookish anti-haul a couple of months ago, and it is The Starless Sea by Eric Morgenstein. A couple of people I know have read this, and I read the blurb of it and I was really intrigued by the story and I really wanted to read it, and that's all I'm gonna say. And I thought I'd give it a chance. It was reduced over Christmas in Waterstones and I thought, why the heck not? However, yes, I'm a hypocrite. The next book I picked up was definitely Nimona by Noelle Stevenson, but I can't find my copy anywhere, which is really great. But I picked that up. And I also picked up Tomi by Juni Tuzo. This is a horror manga. I want to get into graphic novels this year and I want to read them more. This is, yeah, apparently meant to be a good horror manga. I can't wait. Actually I'm really excited to read this. I didn't realise that it was a manga and I didn't realise that it was so thick, but there's a first time for everything. The next couple of books, if you have watched my latest vlog, you've already seen, so I'm going to fly through these. So the first book I actually received for Christmas from my friend Lisa. We did Bookmas, which you can see over on the vlog that I did last week, and we basically wrote a list of prompts of the sort of books that we might want to read, and then we went to Waterstones Birmingham and split up and picked 3 books for each other, and then we presented them to each other, to the person that was our Secret Santa, and we got to keep the book. We bought the book for the person that was our Secret Santa. That was a really bad description, but hey ho. And Lisa picked for me The Story of My Tits by Jennifer Hayden. This again is a graphic novel about this woman's relationship with her tits. I think it sounds amazing. The artwork in here sounds absolutely fabulous and I can't wait to read it. It just sounds up my street, like tit liberation and all that, so sounds amazing. The next 3 books I bought for myself. Not much more I can say. It is All the Bright Things a Girl Can Do by Sally Nichols. This is kind of like a suffragette themed historical book. I really liked the sound of it. I just picked it up on a whim. I love going into bookshops and just reading the blurbs of books and thinking about something that I might fancy that I probably haven't heard of before, which is why I love book recommendations too, to be honest. So I thought this sounded really interesting and really cool. And it's set in 1914 during the women's suffrage kind of era. I'm super into anything gender history. I'm getting a little bit more into historical fiction recently, so I'm hoping that I'm really going to enjoy this. The next book is All the Bad Apples by Moria Flowery Doyle. I've heard my friend Lily rave about this and that's why I picked it up. It sounds like a really interesting, maybe urban fantasy thing, and I'm really into urban fantasy again at the minute, so thought I'd give it a go. Why not? And the next book, I couldn't resist because it was signed. So I found this in the bargain section of Waterstones Birmingham because it had a rip-in, and it's a signed copy of Dark Dawn by J. Christoph. I own Nevernight. I don't own the middle book in the series. I bought this on a whim because it was signed. End of story. I have no self-control. So that is a little 2019 finale, 2020 catch up, books I've been reading, books I've read. Yeah, just so we're all up to date now, and think, yeah, why not? Let me know in the comments down below what you've bought recently. Have you bought any books for the new year? What have you set your Goodreads reading challenge to? -50. I think I'm already failing. 2020 is not going to be a good reading year. It's not getting off to a good start. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below your plans for 2020, and I will see you soon with another video. Goodbye.